City.
Welcome everybody to the May 27th regular board member of the City of Griffin Board of Commissioners. We will have the invocation by Commissioner Holberg and the Pledge of Allegiance by Commissioner Martin.
Please join me in prayer. Father, we're here today to ask for your blessings and guidance in our performance of duties as elected officials. We pray for strength, love, knowledge, and understanding. Help us to recognize and solve the problems that are presented. Make our solutions fair and just to the best interest of everyone. Help us to overcome our shortcomings and keep us united as a team to work for the betterment of the city and its people. We pray in your name. Amen.
Please join me in the pledge. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, first we have presentations and delegations. We'll recognize Danny Pryor, Superintendent with the Water Distribution Department for 25 years of dedicated service to the City of Griffin. Dr. Keller will address. Wow.
How y'all doing?
Hey,
Good evening.
Good evening.
As I get my fingerprints all over this. Danny Pryor's worked for the city for 25 years, and he's worked for me since 2002. That was 25 years all by itself. But Danny's in the rain, in the water, when it's cold and when it's wet, and when it's hot, he's out there too. But Danny's a good employee. He's over water distribution and wastewater collections. And anytime that you want to go for a ride, he'd be glad to take you and let you find out what it's all about when it's wet and when it's stinky. But he's a great employee, and he's been here 25 years. And so you get a plaque.
Good job. All right. Danny, I'd like to say that I've worked with you many, many times over the years on building projects, and you've always been very professional, very knowledgeable, very helpful. There's no one I've ever worked with who was a better help and better face in the city, so I personally thank you very much.
It's hard to find an extra 20 customers in the city, I think it's sometimes.
All right, thank you, Ms. Pryor. Number 2, recognize the graduates of the Second Citizens Police Academy.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
It is Chief Eaton and my great pleasure to bring up all 33 of the recent graduates of our 10-week Citizens Police Academy.
Wow.
Where they have been exposed to tasers, firearms, pepper spray, crime scene, criminal procedure, criminal law, traffic law, and a host of other things in their 10 weeks. And they all say they don't want it to end. But I'll let them talk to you a little bit. But I'd love to have each and every one of them come up. Daryl, this year's the coordinator of the class. Daryl does a great job of this. He puts it together. He gets all the instructors, and he set up the curriculum and the material. And Daryl has done an excellent job again this year as well. And if each one of you would just kind of raise your hand when I call your name out.
Daryl.
They're bashful.
Spread them out. Line them up.
Improve the way we look. Come on.
My birthday.
All right, Miss Cindy Fay, who is our purchasing agent and one of our employees. Cindy here? Well, maybe not. Nancy Feldman. Miss Nancy. Brian Enright. Barbara Enright. Husband and wife team. Michelle Diggs. So she finally got to see her husband for 10 weeks.
Oh, that's his daughter.
Brenda McElroy. Larry McElroy. Christopher Gervin. Okay. Kay Peters, Barbara Demetrio, Sherry Mullis, Jennifer Johnson, Jarena Watson, Leslie Fagan, Kimberly Woods, Lisa Rankin, Taylor Bill, Elaine Addison, Janet Miller, Julia Chang, Regina Stevens, Janice Parker, Melinda Martin, Sharon Andrews, Ida Boyston, Anthony Kennedy, Jacqueline Taylor, Reginald Moreland, Betty Jones, George David, John Drennan, Terry Williams, Jerome Smith. That's everybody. Congratulations. And I was told that there was one lady that wanted to do something and maybe present something to Darrell.
We just want to thank Darrell, and I know I'm speaking for the entire class. We have had such a wonderful 10 years. I've been associated with the police department since 1966 and you're whatever you love it. But there's so many new things that have happened that's fascinating to me. And we really appreciate Darrell and all the officers that take their time to kind of teach us and help us learn what's going on and what they're doing. And we just want to just remove something that you put on the door, and every time they see it, make it know that the citizens of Griffin love it. You can't afford that one.
I've been asked to say something. Congratulations. As I told you when I met you, is that I think it's wonderful that we have citizens in Griffin that think enough of their community to come out in groups of 30 to visit the police department, ride along, and allow us to be able to share with you what we do for you on a daily basis. While I didn't get to spend much time with you, I look forward to seeing you in the future. And as we talked about, hopefully we'll be able to do some partnerships to continue the relationship. But once again, congratulations, and we're glad that you came to the police department for the Citizens Police Academy.
And my boss said for the one time that I've known him that there's time is not an object if any of y'all want to say anything.
I'll tell you, I have been so really much I came in and I was just fighting about the program, but I am ecstatic. I mean, I'm ready. I feel empowered, not only for myself, but for my neighborhood, my family. You know, I was taught things that TV is so make-believe, but what they told us was so evil. And we could just follow all this, and they were so patient. They fed us because we never got home. Some of them gave a few pounds. I think there's no like this. People make time to keep us of the community. What is going on? I just, you know, I just never made it. And I just want to tell you, just what a thank you. Even Fred. And I will mention while we're here, have you thought any more about that party gift we talked about, the table and the
It's right here.
I've got this job.
Just put it right here. I need that was agenda.
Y'all want to let somebody get y'all a picture with the director, appreciate it.
Right, thank you.
Maybe our commissioners can stand up and look at
My platform shoes on.
Joey, you may as well slide over.
Oh. So you can actually be in the picture.
Slide, get on your.
face of radio.
He's panning out.
They got their images. I know, right?
You give them shoulder, undercover.
Hey, good to see you, Reggie. Good to see you. Good job, Reggie.
Well, I think it's hard not to be encouraged by such an impressive showing of people who are willing to dedicate so much time to this program and be part of the solution. And they kept appreciating the time of the officers, which I believe we do too, but we can't underestimate the time that you guys all took out of your busy schedule. So we really appreciate that and thank you and hope to keep partnering with you. All right, keep it rolling. We'll move on. We got consider proclamation recognizing May 2014 as Lupus Awareness Month and May 10th as World Lupus Day.
Make a motion to approve the proclamation.
Have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Unanimous. And on behalf of the Lupus Foundation of America, we have Myrna Evans here to receive it. So if you would come up front. I'll read this proclamation and you guys can come on up. By the City of Griffin of the State of Georgia, a proclamation made as Lupus Awareness Month, whereas lupus is an acute and chronic lifelong autoimmune disease in which the immune system is unbalanced, causing inflammation and tissue damage to virtually every organ in the body. And whereas lupus can affect any part of the body, including the skin, lungs, heart, kidneys, and brain, no organ is spared. This disease can cause seizures, strokes, heart attacks, miscarriages, and organ failure. And whereas, while lupus strikes mostly women of childbearing age, no one is safe from lupus, as it also affects men and children. African Americans, Hispanics, Latinos, Asians, and Native Americans are 2 to 3 times more likely to develop lupus, disparity that remains unexplained. And whereas an estimated 1.5 million Americans have lupus, and whereas approximately 55,000 Georgians are living with lupus, and whereas lupus can be particularly difficult to diagnose because its symptoms are similar to those of many other illnesses, and major gaps exist in understanding the causes of lupus. And whereas more than half of all people with lupus take 4 or more years to visit 3 or more doctors before obtaining a correct diagnosis. And whereas the effects of lupus on a family can be devastating in that it is chronic, lifelong, and life-threatening disease, despite its prevalence, it remains one of the least recognizable and most misunderstood diseases, labeling lupus as a cruel mystery. And whereas the City of Griffin joins the Georgia chapter of the Lupus Foundation of America and the other interested agencies and organizations in promoting awareness about lupus research and education, now, therefore, we, the Commissioners of the City of Griffin of the State of Georgia, do hereby proclaim May 2014 as Lupus Awareness Month in Georgia and acknowledge May 10th, 2014 as World Lupus Day, urging citizens to become knowledgeable about the impact of lupus on the human body, families, and communities in Georgia. In witness thereof, I have hereunto set my hand and caused the seal of the City of Griffin to be affixed this 27th day of May, 2014. Signed by Ryan McNamara, Chairperson.
Thank you. Thank you very much. For y'all, if you run across someone
Okay.
that may need it, and please Okay.
Well, why don't I get one?
Okay, great. I gave to him some information on lupus. If any of you do know someone with it, I've been a support group leader now for, 35 years. And because I know when I was first diagnosed, I was scared to death. And the young lady back here, she's had lupus for a long time. She was a child lupus patient. And she is just amazing in how she copes with it. And she's been such a big help to me and other younger people that come into the group. We have a man coming into the group now. These are just a few of the patients that we have in our group. But I guess the main thing that I can say to anybody, refer anybody that has any chronic illness. And I leave the lupus group open to anybody with chronic illnesses because they all face the same problems. Loss of jobs, loss of illness, a lot of times breakup of homes. So if you meet someone with lupus, by all means, refer them to me. Thank you. Thank you very, very much. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Ms. Evans.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll now move into citizen comments. At this time, the chairperson opens the floor to comments from the audience. Comments should relate to a specific agenda item not listed on the agenda for a public hearing or to a concern within the jurisdiction of the city. Commission meetings serve the purpose of conducting city business and are not a forum for the unlimited expression of opinion. Chairperson reserves the right to limit comments to matters germane to city business and may refer speakers to the city manager or other staff or resolution. Do I have anyone on my left side that would like to come and speak to the board? Okay. Anyone from the right side that would like to come and speak? All right, given that, we will move on to public hearings. We have a number of them today. All right, we'll move to the first one. Item number 4, receive comments regarding the proposed budgets for fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2014 and ending June 30th, 2015. Kane, did you want to give just a brief synopsis of what we went over this morning?
This morning, we had a work session in regard to the budget. Our budget proposal for the coming year is a $109 million budget with a $26 million general fund budget. We're proposing a tax decrease of approximately $500,000. So that would be good news for our taxpayers. We have several paper copies of the budget on file in my office. If anyone wants to come and review the paper copy, it's also accessible on our webpage, on the face of our webpage. So if anyone has any questions over the next week or so, if they would like to get with us, we'll be glad to answer those questions. And we propose to finalize the budget and have it approved at the next meeting, which is the second Tuesday in June. So we've got a couple of weeks if anybody has any questions.
I'm curious to see if anybody wants to come forward and complain about a tax decrease. Let's see.
This is a public hearing. If anybody would like to come forward and address the board about the budget that has been proposed. I assume most people haven't had a whole lot of time to digest what was put out there this morning, but we will have some time before that next meeting to get your thoughts and opinions. All right. If there are none, we will move on. Item number 5, receive comments regarding an amendment to the Unified Development Code of the City of Griffin, Article 7, Table 7.3, zoning districts to allow for automobile and truck sales, service, and repair in planned commercial development.
Mr. Chairman, Taurus Freeman. This ordinance amendment is actually a cleaning up of the code.
Taurus, would you raise the microphone a bit? Thank you.
I'm sorry.
I had trouble. Okay.
This is an amendment to the Unified Development Code to allow automobile and truck sales and service repairs in the planned commercial development district in Table 7.3 of the permitted uses of the zoning and category and development. Previously, this was not a category within the code itself, and staff has received numerous requests for such uses within that zoning classification. So this is just an amendment to allow what is already being permitted within our zoning areas, in those zoning areas.
So we adopted the new code, just somehow got left off the list.
That is correct. And as we go through the code, there are a lot of other uses that are left out. In the land-based classification standards book, there are over 5,000 type of uses, whereas our code only displays a few hundred. So there are a lot of things that are left out that staff will probably adjust at that time.
Taurus, was this brought to your attention, the reason that we're just now addressing it?
Yes, it was. It's been brought to our attention probably a couple of months ago. We continue to receive requests to do automobile sales, and actually looking at the code and looking at what is existing out there in our zoning classifications. This is the market standard to have those located in that zoning classification itself.
And this would not be allowed in the historic district?
That is correct. It's just the planned commercial development zoning classification.
So the current car lots, used car lots, currently legal, but if they have mechanical shops or repair shops tied to it, they're not allowed, or what is the?
It will allow for those type of uses only in planned commercial, in PCD. Only.
One of the shortcomings of, I think personally, of our code is that we only have one commercial zoning district, or PCD, other than the historic district. So in essence, when you are allowing car lots, you're also allowing repairs in the same commercial district as any other commercial store, which in my mind, you may not want a repair shop in the middle of your commercial district. In my mind, if you had I don't know what you would classify it, but something a little more intense in certain commercial districts rather than having everything lumped up into one.
And Mr. Smith is correct. We do not have any transitional zoning classifications for commercial. We have planned PCD, which is it, which all our zoning, a lot of our uses go into that one zoning classification. So there's no light, there's no general, and there's no heavy commercial zoning classification within our ordinance itself.
When I saw this, the thought occurred to me, we have a number of places around town that are zoned industrial, and I wouldn't be surprised we already have some car lots, truck lots in industrial areas. I think in Experiment Street and others. So I don't even thought about adding industrial as a place you could sell cars and trucks also, but that might be what's out there someplace.
Yes, sir.
So would a salvage yard be allowed, or in terms of someone?
No, sir. Salvage yard would not be allowed.
Well, not salvage, but like wrecker service, where they're bringing cars in that just sit there. I mean, we got the issue on Experiment Street where you've got cars that have been sitting there for decades that just seem to sit there forever.
No, those would not be allowed.
If it's a repair shop, it would be allowed.
Yes, if it's a repair shop, but just because there are certain businesses that just do towing, and those vehicles sit there, and it's not associated with any type of repairs itself. It's just a towing lot where the cars are kept.
But what he's referring to is classified as a repair shop. Those on Experiment Street, those on Meriwether, or sometimes become eyesores because they're repair shops and they get parts off of wrecked cars, and the wrecked cars end up sitting there. But it's classified as a repair shop. That's why, to me, to have some general retail and right next door to it have an automobile repair shop.
Well, you know, a tire store could be under this classification too, could it not? Those that sell tires also work on brakes, install tires, and do minor repairs. I can think of at least two on Taylor.
Yeah, I made a comment a long time ago. In the county, they have C1, C2, C3, commercial, industrial, and really nasty. in the C1 commercial, they have C1A, B, C, and D. I think there are 4 sort of a gradation, like Mr. Smith was talking about, for sort of clean commercial all the way down to car repair, which is the dirtier commercial, if you will. So they have some variations more than what we do. We have very limited categories.
That we do, sir.
What was P&Z Board's recommendation?
P&Z Board recommendation, they heard this on May 19th, and they recommended approval.
I think my first thought when I saw it is probably what some of these comments are going along with is what used car lot came to request this and to add in. I'm having a hard time understanding what we might be opening ourselves up to, and as well as what our rights are to have limitations or exclusions.
I don't know that you've ever denied a business of this nature within PCD. Now, I think it was probably in the code before we adopted the Unified Development Code.
And actually, it was all those were thrown into the service business category, which was all encompassing as well. So once again, before it was like that, and with us only having a limited one zoning classification for commercial, it's kind of the catch-all.
As it is. At the moment, you can't legally sell cars any place in the city because it's not in any of the zones, so I trust we want people to sell cars in the city, right?
But there's a difference between a retail sales, either a new or used lot versus a repair shop and a service center. So that's the only thing that bothers me.
Can we split the definitions?
Sorry?
Can we split the definitions in this category?
Most any car dealer will do minor repairs at the service bays. I think we're obsessing too much here.
I'm obsessing over the fact that we get a lot of comments about how many tire stores there are and how many pawn shops there are and the potential for cash for gold and those things popping up and that's what I'm obsessing over is what is it we're actually going to end up doing by having a somewhat broad category added to this, whether intentionally or not intentionally left out to begin with. And Ms. Todd's right as far as the tire stores, we get those comments all the time. So are we opening this up?
Well, the tire stores pay taxes, hire people, do business.
Right, I did not say that to indicate anything that these businesses have been there for years, and it's good, honest living, and so I wouldn't want anything to affect them in the sense that you do get your brakes fixed and all this other kind of stuff. I mean, if you're going to talk about repair, that's a broad category.
Well, I think it's the outside storage that has caused me some concern because that's part of the problem in the Experiment Street corridor and the Meriwether Street corridor is you end up with outside storage infinity.
If they got rid of the cars, they did them, and if they come in, they get fixed and move them out. But they just sit there, whether it's 13th Street or Experiment Street, Meriwether Street. You just
a repair shop on Taylor Street or Solomon Street or somewhere, as long as it was an in and out repair shop, like the tire shop, wouldn't be a problem. But when you have outside storage overnight
now, how broad an area is this, Taurus? How broad an area will this ordinance cover? Now, you've already said that there will be businesses grandfathered in.
That is correct. But most of these businesses are located in PCD already. So when we looked around the city and see exactly where these businesses were located, a majority are located in our planned commercial development areas.
I just bring it up because I think in the future we need to look at something similar to what the county has, where we have light retail and general retail and heavy retail.
We had a car dealership
going back to
Commissioner
McLemore's question, I think you could separate these. However,
a new car dealership, as a condition of their franchise, generally has to have automotive service and repair combined with it. So that, and it really almost lends itself to a particular type of structure and a large acreage or larger acreage location. We've got several used car lots, like on Taylor Street, which probably have no service with them. They're just lots, vacant lots. Maybe have a small building to use for an office, but park used cars on until they're sold. Then you've got the repair and service businesses, and Doug said, some of these are not real interested in moving their inventory. Once it's on the lot, it stays on the lot.
I guess that's just kind of a...
Right by the street from Mayfield.
So can you put a ordinance where if they don't have current tags on those vehicles, they can't store them, or it become a nuisance vehicle at that point?
I've actually seen that before in other municipalities where they had, if the car sits for 30 days, it has to be licensed and tagged. They have to be making some type of progress on the vehicle, otherwise they would have to move it.
Operational at some point.
Well, I think we need to pass this to make all of our car lots legal, but I do think we need to consider breaking up VCD into a lighter and a heavier in the future. I think that's a worthy project. I've said that for a long time.
Okay. This is a public hearing, so if anybody would like to come forward and address the board on this topic, please come forward. All right. Any other questions for Tars? No? All right, thank you. Item number 6, receive comments regarding an amendment to the City of Griffin zoning map to include designation of Special Housing Revitalization Overlay District, SHROD. Tars Freeman will address.
The Griffin Spalding Housing the City of Griffin Housing Authority is in the midst of a large development located on this track at 426 South 15th Street, and within that they are requesting that a special housing revitalization overlay district be also designated for this area. The intent of this overlay district is to encourage housing and economic development activities in older residential mixed-use neighborhoods within the city. The SHROD is intended to supplement the base zoning in any area by imposing additional regulations designed to achieve a desirable, active urban environment that includes a substantial residential component. Based on that intent and based on the request by the Housing Authority, staff recommends that we designate the property for the SHROD itself. The Planning Commission heard this request on May 19th and recommended approval.
Okay. Are there any questions for Tars? It's a public hearing. If anybody would like to come forward and address the board, raise your hand. All right. Thank you. Item number 7, receive comments regarding an amendment to the Unified Development Code of the City of Griffin, Section 720D, physical requirement of the Special Housing Revitalization Overlay District to reduce the minimum floor area per dwelling unit.
Based on the industry standards for housing units, for redevelopment and new development, for senior housing, which would be phase 2 of the proposal by the Griffin Housing Authority, staff recommended that the unit square footage be modified to be reduced to 550 square feet for studios, 600 square feet for one-bedroom units, 700 square feet for two-bedroom units, and 900 square feet for three-bedroom and larger units. And once again, staff has done considerable research in looking at other developments of this nature, and with the help of the Housing Authority and Penrose, and these were very comfortable for other developments of this nature, and this request was actually heard by the Planning Commission on May 19th, and they recommended approval.
Okay. Are there any questions for Taurus? And Bob, this basically just goes along with the designs that have been presented to us throughout this whole process when it comes to the schematics and look of the redevelopment as a whole.
That is correct. A lot of developments of this nature there are requirements, there are density requirements, and so therefore the unit sizes really does not play a huge part. It just meets the footprint of the development from which the applicant is requesting.
This is another area that y'all probably need to re-examine in the near future. We talked about it in relation to this project, but your standards, your minimum square footages for your various size houses may be on the high side today in comparison to what little rebound there's been in the housing market. It seems it's coming in with smaller footprints and all, so that's just something to be thinking about.
Well, years ago, having seen some special programs on homelessness and so on, I proposed the city basically apartment with smaller apartment buildings, smaller apartments that single people or homeless, limited income could afford and live in, like a lot of cities are doing. And I was shot down by the commission that time because it was smaller than their minimum space, and yet other cities are solving a lot of homelessness and issues like that by allowing smaller housing units to get the costs down. And so I think we're out of touch with today's world out there.
Well, that's why y'all need to think in those terms.
Okay, it's a public hearing. If anybody would like to come forward and comment. Okay, keep moving on. Item number 8, receive comments regarding a request to rezone 3 contiguous parcels located at 836, 834, and 0 North Hill Street from high-density residential A to neighborhood business district to neighborhood business district to operate a neighborhood convenience store.
The applicant M. Michael Kendall and the property owner Tanya Touchstone is requesting this rezoning. These parcels are currently there's a structure on one of the parcels, and the other 2 lots are currently vacant. The future land use for this parcel is residential, and this property is located in District 1. With this request, they're wanting to reestablish a convenience store at this location. On these locations, this convenience store will be relocated from what is now currently located on North Hill Street and North 6th Street. And it's just a continuation of that type of use in a different area. As you know, with the LCI project, the store is being displaced because of the road widening. So it will leave a need for the community to have some type of use to serve their neighborhood convenience, to say the least. The surrounding properties are all HDRA, which is high density residential A, and high density residential B. The existing uses are single family residential. There's a car wash located in the area, as well as 2 churches. The Planning Commission heard this request on May 17th, and they recommended approval with 3 conditions. 1, access to the property be limited to Kentucky Avenue. 2, sidewalks should be 5 feet in width along Kentucky Avenue and North Hill Street frontage, with a 5-foot landscape strip between the edge of the right-of-way and the new sidewalk. And 3, the applicant adhere to as applicable the commercial character standards from the North Hill Street redevelopment plan.
I need to discuss this. Of course, this solves a long-running issue. I think finally fixes it. But the first of those, the entrance on Kentucky, not Hill, goes against the last design, which was redesigned to keep from other problems there, setbacks and variances and so on. So it would appear to me that the number one condition is no longer valid. That was an earlier design. But 2 and 3 are still valid. Is that?
Number one is what the number one condition
Access to the
is
property
putting
limited.
it access off Kentucky. They've got a design that they had shifted the building to the front where the entire facade is similar to our neighborhood business district guidelines would put everything against North Hill Street and hide the parking lot and hide the driveway access. So
The last one, you
Well, they
entered off of Hill Street.
this one they've got coming off Hill Street, but the condition would be for them to turn the building and put everything behind the building coming off Kentucky Avenue, which
Yeah, but this is the,
I think that's just a concept.
Yeah.
I don't
this is
think
not
it's
the
a
last
site.
design?
That is the last conceptual design. But once again, it's just a concept. A lot of the development standards, such as this request right here, that can be solved during development plan review stages in dealing with the applicant.
Well, I thought this design solved the problems with setbacks and variances that had occurred.
I think it puts the dumpster right there at that single-family residence's back front door. If you'll swing the building around and use the concept that we did with the neighborhood business zoning in terms of design standards, you'd put the building against North Hill Street and put everything behind it, give it.
Well, I mean, in essence, they'll have to redevelop the concept plan to match your condition.
Yeah, but that created a lot of problems. I see Mr. Zadea back there about the entrance. I'm not trying to create a problem here, but as I understood, that, am I wrong? This last design solved all the variants and the other issues that brought up.
That is
Previous design, this was a design that worked.
That is correct.
The other one didn't work.
But the design can work if you run the building the other direction along Hill Street and have a front door, have a front of the building being front of North Hill Street instead of the side.
Right, and there's still several other issues that need to be addressed, which will be done during the development plan review stage, such as drainage, such as where the detention pond is going to be located. So there are several other things that would actually go into this request during the development phase.
So you want to see those conditions on it?
Mr. Kendall or Touchdown, would either of y'all like to share your thoughts on, well, as far as what that would?
If you force it up to the street, I've never seen a convenience store with the front door in the street and everybody coming in out of the back door then. It's backwards. But I'll listen to
in
Mr.
terms of
Kendall.
neighborhood business district, if you look at the design standards, it has everything up front.
I understand what you're saying. Gentlemen, ladies, Mr. Kendall, good evening.
My name is Michael Kendall, 130 North Hill Street, and I'm the applicant on this particular request. Now, I'm not quite understanding if there's a requirement that the only entrance be off of Kentucky Avenue, are you saying, Mr. Holberg, that the building should face east? Is that what you're saying?
Building would face west.
And so you come in out the back door?
The building would face west.
You'd have a front door, back door, but your parking lot would be behind the building. So that you wouldn't
Parking
see
lot
it.
would be on the east side of the building.
East side of the building, your driveway would come in,
And the dumpster would be where?
back in the back section of the property,
You mean on the north side of the property?
somewhere off the back side of the parking lot. I mean, that's how we sat down and discussed it.
Okay. Well, now, I don't think there hasn't been a conceptual drawing to take into account all of that now. So I'm not saying it won't work, but I'm not sure if your only entrance for everybody, including the trash truck, is off of.
Well, one of your conceptual drawings had the driveway coming in off Kentucky Avenue
But
at
that
one
didn't-
time.
That didn't work because that created a setback issue.
But solve the setback issue as you move the building to the front of the property, to the Hill Street side, run it long ways, and then you don't have an issue of a setback issue, because it's...
Okay. Again, I'm not saying it won't work. I'm just having, I'm not familiar with that particular design. We turned it several different ways here, and the last one that we submitted was sort of the one that I think probably was the easiest one.
I'm not looking at these, I'm looking at aesthetics for that corridor. It's going to be our prime entranceway from Sun City and economic development from the north side of Griffin. So we're about to spend millions of dollars to clean up the North Hill Street section, and we shouldn't have to settle for something just so it fits in. We should make it work in terms of our long-range plan of cleaning up Hill Street from point A to point B. And if we're going to...
Why does the front of the building have to be the long side? Why can't it be the short side in front of the building, which is what that shows?
I'm just looking at what the neighborhood business district specs had in regards to the recommendation.
Let me tell you what my concern is, regardless of how the building is placed on the property. If the entrance is off Hill Street, that's a really bad spot. It's right at the top of the hill. There's a lot of blind traffic in that area. So that's my concern with the entrance being off Hill Street, is that could be a tricky area without traffic coming in and out from that spot right there. So I agree with the entrance off Kentucky Avenue, but that has no bearings for me on how the building is placed on the property. I'm just concerned about the traffic issue right there.
Well, I think that, just for the sake of a little more argument here, that design puts the dumpster back on access to Kentucky and away from, if you do the other way, you have to put the dumpster at the north end, which is up against other properties, so.
But they had a drawing that showed that before.
It didn't work.
And you shift the building, because the issue is the setback on the building, but if you set the building where the parking lot was and shift it, the parking lot to the back side, it would work.
Well, let me say this, either way, now, one thing I just want to correct, Mr. Freeman said that there are no buildings on this lot right now. There's nothing on the 3 lots. There's a house to the north, and there's a house to the east. Now, the house to the north is not occupied, and it's really just a sort of a shell. It doesn't really have any walls or anything. It's just sort of outside walls and some studs on the inside. And I think the house to the east in the back, what would now be considered the back on Kentucky Avenue, is in fact occupied. So either way, there's a structure. If you put the parking lot either on the north side or on the east side of the building, and you have to put the dumpster somewhere, they're going to be in proximity to some sort of structure, one way or another. Now, how you get in and out of there is, sort of problematic. We haven't figured out logistically what's the best way to do it. We were trying to make sure all the setbacks were met, and the other aesthetics that Mr. Holberg is referring to, we really haven't, sat down to try to figure out all of that. But if you say there's only one way in and one way out, one of the problems that was pointed out to us was the ingress and egress of the customers, that if you have, if you only have one way in and one way out, that sort of is can get to be a problem for people coming and people going, which, of course, another consideration that you have to take into account in this situation. So, I mean, Mr. Zadea is certainly amenable to trying to make things as safe and accessible as possible. But I kind of think if you limit it, if you condition it to just one entrance off of Kentucky Avenue, it might make things just much more infinitely difficult to try to figure this thing out some sort of way.
But this is neighborhood business district, not planned commercial.
Right.
And the neighborhood business district shows how you locate the building to the front of the property. And if you had, before you had the building in the rear and the parking lot in the front, if you'd flip-flop those the way the original plan that you brought to me
Right.
you can make it work without having to get setback changes. And you had the dumpster in the back part of the lot before, you could push everything in there to work.
Well, I'm not saying it won't. I mean, because I think
So-
conceptually, that was our predisposition to have the front of the building facing Hill Street, because it sort of made the most sense, you know. And now where the parking lot was, you know, of course, we had it in the front of the building on that first conceptual design, as you said. Now, but if it would be better in the back, that's not really that much of a problem as opposed to being on the north side, but that doesn't really address the issue of how many access points you have to the property, I think. Now,
You know, I rarely agree with Mike Kendall on many things, but your approval tonight of the rezoning is not going to be tied to a site-specific plan. You're simply approving the zoning change as far as classification. And you can impose whatever reasonable conditions you see fit.
Once we put those conditions.
You've got these three
Right, and
conditions
then
here.
it's
Now
their
you work
job
those
to
three
come back
conditions.
with a site plan that fits those conditions, or to ask conditions be lifted, or whatever they see is appropriate. But there's no plan before you tonight that you're actually going to vote on when you approve the rezoning.
I can support the three conditions if y'all can work around that in terms of my vote. Now with the other seven, how they feel, but.
Well, as I said, I haven't tried to work through all those.
I'm really strictly working on that little lot personally. I think we need a solution to getting this gentleman his store back.
This public, still public hearing?
Yes, still public
Okay.
hearing. Any other questions for Mr. Kendall? All right, public hearing. If anybody would like to come forward and speak on this matter, please do so. Okay, hearing none, we will move on to consent agenda. Consider approval of minutes of regular scheduled meeting on May 13th, 2014.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the minutes with the one correction that it was me who abstained from approving the minutes and not Mr. Holberg, because I was the one that had been absent at the previous meeting.
Okay.
Second the motion with the correction.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please raise your hand.
I'm abstaining.
We have 6 with 1 abstention. All right, on to the regular agenda. Consider a request to amend the Unified Development Code of the City of Griffin, Article 7, Table 7.3, zoning districts to allow for automobile and truck sales, service and repair, and planned commercial development.
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve the proposed amendment to UDC.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please raise your hand. All those against? 6-1. Item number 11, consider approval of a request to amend the City of Griffin zoning map to include designation of Special Housing Revitalization Overlay District.
Make a motion to approve.
I have a motion.
Second.
And a second. Any discussion or question? Hearing none, all those in favor, please raise your hand. Unanimous. Item 12, consider a request to amend the Unified Development Code of the City of Griffin, Section 720D, physical requirements of a Special Housing Revitalization Overlay District to reduce the minimum floor area per dwelling unit. Do I have a motion?
I move we approve.
I have a motion, and I need a second. Any discussion? All those in favor, please raise your hand. Unanimous. Item number 13, consider a request to rezone 3 contiguous parcels addressed as 836, 834, and 0 North Hill Street, located at the northeast corner of North Hill Street and Kentucky Avenue, from high-density residential to neighborhood business district to operate a neighborhood convenience store.
Make a motion to approve with the three conditions.
Have a motion?
Second.
Second. Any other comments? Hearing none, all those in favor, please raise your hands. Unanimous. Item 14, consider a letter of support for the Griffin Spalding Reentry Demonstration Project to the U.S. Department of Justice to recommend an award for a discretionary grant.
I move we approve.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any questions for Kenny? Hearing none, all those in favor, please raise your hand. Unanimous. Item number 15, consider approval to purchase 2 bicycles for Griffin Fire Rescue Special Events Bike Patrol. To transfer $1,120 to general fund operating cash from fire donations cash account. Appropriate $1,120 to donations revenue and operating supplies expenditures, and amend the budget accordingly.
Make a motion to approve as long as you don't ride them on Kiwanis Trail.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any questions for Chief Jones?
I have a question. The fire's donation account, people just come up and give you all money?
Believe it or not, yes, sir, they do. This account was created years ago, like Walmart will sometimes just show up with a $1,000 check. That's pretty much where this one come from. And we actually showed up at an event the other day, and people started bringing us money from Musco District. They say, yeah, it's a very kind community.
So you don't have to donate to get the water turned on for a fire, right?
Correct.
We're careful, however, not to commingle muscular dystrophy money and
Absolutely.
special donations, since you brought that up.
Right, yeah, very good point. It is separated and ledged, and logged in by our finance director.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Unanimous. Item number 16, consider approval to declare 17 self-contained breathing apparatus, Scott 2.2-2216 wireframe harnesses, as surplus and offer for sale on govdeals.com.
I move we approve.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any questions for Chief? All right, hearing none, all those in favor, please raise your hand. Unanimous. Item number 17, approve a resolution authorizing the execution of amendments to 1, a certain plant Vogel additional units non-PPA power sales contract, 2, a certain plant Vogel additional units PPA power sales contract, and 3, a certain plant Vogel additional units PPA-2 power sales contract. Each dated as of June 15, 2008 with MEAG Power. Director Bill Bosch will address. What's the summary? I tried to, this thing was about 200 pages long, and I looked for the scratched out lines to...
Long story short, this is the 3 vehicles that I've been telling you about that MEAG had to create to do the refinancing of that 25% of the debt left over. It's going to out about 500 megs. It's about a $45 million savings and about $2 million to us. Maybe Drew would like to get a little more technical.
Well, no.
You want it. This may be one of the more critical financings that y'all have looked at in relation to MEAG over the years, but I think it's also one of the most positive things that MEAG has come back to you with. Going back to, I believe, 2008, you signed the 3 power sales agreements that Ryan mentioned reading the agenda, projects P, J, and M. And these are amendments to those existing agreements. And MEAG is basically doing a private placement instead of going out into the public bond market like they have traditionally. The Department of Energy, United States Department of Energy, is going to buy the issuance as a whole and guarantee its repayment. Now, what's a little different from it is that MEAG will actually give a first priority security interest to the Department of Energy, so that if there should be a default, the Department of Energy may take over at some point in the future the operation of Units 3 and 4, which really doesn't, I don't think, affect you that greatly, since your role in this is that of a purchaser capacity from these plants. You're still going to have the ability to buy that output capacity. So I think you're protected in that sense. Now, in the legal sense, this is a form of intergovernmental agreement to which the city pledges also its full faith and credit, which means that you can be called upon, just like you can under any of the other previous MEAG power sales agreements, to levy taxes if need be, if you don't have revenue sufficient from your sale of electricity, or even if the plants don't have any output, you still are obligated to repay your obligation share. And I think Bill's gonna try to work with that share over time to maybe whittle it down somewhat if it looks like we have too much, on the line at this point. But I think MEAG's done a very good service for its participants in doing this. The cost savings, I think, certainly outweigh the negatives of this particular project.
And what we're actually asking you to do tonight is just pass the resolution that would give the chairman, timing is of the essence, and while the contracts we provided you are complete, there's some numbers and stuff that have to be put in there, so we're asking you to pass the resolution to save time so we can just have the chairman sign it when it comes up.
I move that we approve.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
A motion and a second. Any other questions? Hearing none, all those in favor, please raise your hand. Unanimous?
We have the contract of resolutions for you to sign after.
Fast work.
Item 18, consider approval of a resolution authorizing a loan agreement and promissory note in the amount not to exceed $11,100,000 from the Georgia Environmental Finance Authority to replace the intake pumps at the Flint River Pumping Station, the installation of SCADA equipment, and move the station above flood level, and to expand and upgrade the Potato Creek wastewater treatment plant from 2 megagallons a day to 3 million gallons a day, and all related appurtenances.
I move we approve.
I'll second.
A motion and a second. Any questions for Dr. Cox? Hearing none, all those in favor, please raise your hand. It's unanimous.
And could we have you tomorrow to come by and sign those documents?
Okay.
And sign a letter by the sewer insurance plant too.
You got my sewer plan.
All right, and all appurtenances. All right. Item 19, consider approval of the bid and work contract for Harry Simmons Water Treatment Plant drain valves to All South Constructor, Inc. in the amount of $93,088 for the Water and Wastewater Department of the Public Works and Utilities Department. Dr. Keller will address.
I move we approve.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any questions or discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please raise your hand. Unanimous. Item 20, consider approval of Georgia Department of Transportation Local Maintenance and Improvements Grant application for fiscal year 2014 for the Public Works and Utilities Department. Dr. Keller will address. Come give a...
I move we approve while he's coming up.
Okay, have a motion.
I'll second. If we don't already have it, yeah.
Several weeks ago, I given you a list of streets that potentially could be resurfaced and milled, and I have not heard back from anybody on any particular street, so I'd like to ask this evening if you would, and basically what it boils down to is if the street has curb and gutter, we'll have to mill it first, and then we'll relay the asphalt down, and that's approximately $160,000. If we're strictly resurfacing a street without curb and gutter, or a street that still has a established curb, we will, it's about $80,000. Usually, once the budget has been passed by the state legislature and they give us the appropriation, it ends up being around $250,000. Our match is 30% because we didn't pass the T-Splosh, and then their match is usually somewhere in the neighborhood of $175,000 to $205,000. So basically what I need tonight, because I'll need to send a letter to GDOT by June 1st, our intentions of what we're going to do with our resurfacing money, what streets.
I thought I sent you back mine.
I haven't received anything from anybody.
You give them mine? Okay.
Does that line?
Is this yours?
Yeah, I had recommended to Mrs. Smith, and I was not under the impression that what we were asking for was that we contribute our streets to so that 15th Street and the section.
Yeah, Kenny did mention that.
Okay, the milling and the repaving.
All right, so 15th and portion of Meriwether Street around the project. Okay.
Actually, it was from 12th Street, I think, down to 15th.
From 12th down to, was it down to Every End Road?
All right. Thank you.
That would probably take everybody's portion.
It would take it all because we got a mill, there is no curb and gutter.
Meriwether's in terrible shape.
It
So,
is, and
It's a
we-
gateway into our community.
Right, and the fact that, well, and we are really trying to improve the area there. We're gonna have this beautiful development there, mixed-use development, which will have street lights and we'll have different sidewalks, and we've just got a great opportunity, and there is no curb because of the layers of asphalt that is there. And so,
You're talking about the corner by the Meriwether Homes, that what you're talking about, 15?
Yeah.
15 and up.
up to where West College comes in, you know.
And I'm not really sure what would be a mile, if that would be a mile.
I'll figure it out.
Uh-huh. But,
And you may want to go all the way up to Poplar Street, because it's, that whole section, that whole road is.
You're not gonna have enough money to go to Poplar with milling,
Not with that. I
but
know.
we'll figure it out, and then I'll send y'all an
You're
email.
also doing
and-
an intersection improvement there on 12th Street.
Yes, that'll be
So you can tie that
forthcoming. Yes, sir.
Right.
Thank you.
Right, the other street that is, and I know we'll probably have an opportunity once the improvements are made at the hospital, but 9th Street is in horrible shape. It just really.
Who?
9th Street is in terrible shape, all the way from Poplar, all the way down to almost to the
Milner
hospital.
Street's becoming gravel.
Yeah, it's concrete.
It's concrete and it's cracked and it's just, you know, and of course we.
that
did
might
this
be
other
an
project.
idea that instead of always breaking off, I know a lot of times the little streets needed it, that we try to do longer sections of.
The challenge, I didn't say a problem, have you noticed? I said the challenge with the concrete street is basically to overlay it with asphalt within 2 years, it'll look like Experiment Street if you don't take the concrete out.
Yeah, and we might want to wait because there are going to be medical improvements in that area, and I think it is
Yes,
part of
ma'am.
the medical overlay. So, but I do want y'all to be aware of it.
I'll go to work tomorrow and I'll draw this out and send y'all, copy all the commissioners and let you know how much each section is, and we'll go from there, okay?
All right, thank you.
Thank y'all.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Unanimous. Item 21, consider approval of task order form for design update, permitting and construction management of the Potato Creek wastewater treatment plant's Paragon Consulting Group in the amount of $1,021,790 for the Water and Wastewater Department of Public Works and Utilities.
Move we approve.
Have a motion and a second. Any questions for Dr. Kelly?
Is that a standard, about 10% of a
Yes,
project?
actually, it's a little cheaper than some of the other projects we've had.
Usually 8 to 10% is normal.
Usually it's around 10 to 14%, depending on who you're dealing with.
When they got it and redesigned it, they cut $3 million off the previous engineering costs, so, construction costs. Re-engineering saved a lot of money.
Okay. Any other questions? All those in favor, please raise your hand. Unanimous.
Thank you.
Item 22, consider the approval of the bid and construction contract for lift station number 8 upgrade to RDJE Inc. in the amount of $402,763.50 for the Water and Wastewater Department of the Public Works and Utilities Department.
Make a motion to approve.
Have a motion, have a second? Second. Have a motion and a second. Any questions? Hearing none. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Unanimous. Item 23, consider approval of bid and construction contract for the relocation of water lines on GDOT project number NH000-0001-04062, Spalding County PI number 332890 to Don Hall Construction, Inc. in the amount of $329,685.50 and amend the budget accordingly. Dr. Kelly will address.
I move we approve.
Have a
Second.
motion and a second. Any questions for Dr. Kelly? All right, all those in favor, please raise your hand.
Thank y'all.
Okay.
All right, moving to city manager's report.
Main Street Board's having their workshop tomorrow morning. Today is Tuesday, so Wednesday morning. It seems like Monday today, but it's Tuesday.
Yeah.
So tomorrow, the Main Street Board will be meeting at 8:15, and then they'll have their annual workshop from 9 until 11 at the Welcome Center. The Airport Authority has asked for a joint city commission, county commission, and airport authority meeting to be held on June the 9th at 6 p.m. here. And I've heard from a few of y'all who said you could make it. And hopefully, I think the county is on board with that date.
And it will be here and not at the annex.
It will be here. They have a conflict with the annex. Something else is meeting there, so I told them we could have it here. So if you will put that on your calendar along with June Jam on the 7th. Park at 6.
June Jam.
June Jam. And that's my report.
Okay, Drew, anything?
Well, I just returned last week from MLO's annual conference. We did a flip-flop this year. Usually the annual conference is in the fall and the federal seminar is in Washington each year. But due to some conflict problems in the hotel where it normally meets in Washington, we went to Anchorage, Alaska, and had a very good, in-depth conference this year. I'm going to give a report back to Kenny on some of the details of things that are coming at us, but it was interesting to see local government from a different perspective and talk to city attorneys who have to own a plane and fly sometimes 1,000 miles between clients who only meet once every 3 or 4 months because of the weather and other factors that affect them. And I think the big news I learned is that the average size of a incorporated area in the state of Alaska is only 182 people. But they have to pay the city manager about $150,000 a year just to get it to show up. So to stay there during the winter, I think is
But run over summer for $10,000.
But since we did switch around, we're going to Baltimore this September for the 200th anniversary of the Battle of Baltimore Harbor, which is going to occur during the time that we're there, and also the 50th anniversary of the Civil Rights Act signing. And President Obama supposedly is going to show up for one or the other, or maybe both. So I think we're going to have a good federal conference this fall as well.
An awful lot of lawyers.
Well, surprisingly, we had a bigger turnout in Anchorage than what we had, thought to travel that far away.
Gee, we elected officials couldn't get away with that, could we?
Well, I don't know. The costs were actually less than what we spend in Washington each year.
Oh, really?
Room costs were about $80 a night cheaper.
Wow. It's Alaska. Who wants to go?
And none of you agreed to stay, is that correct, Drew?
Tomorrow.
Okay, thanks. Commissioner McCord, anything?
I did want to make an announcement that we did lose an icon in our community, Mr. Charlie T. McDowell, who founded McDowell United Funeral Home, passed away on Saturday evening. And just have it in the minutes that we mentioned his death. He was a good man. That's all I have.
Thank you. Commissioner Moore?
I think we owe a deep debt of gratitude and thanks to Mr. Smith, the directors, and all of our city team. The fact that our budget has a $500,000 proposed tax decrease in it, I think is a testament to how hard they work to save money, become more efficient and more cost effective. And in this time of rising cost and tough economy, the fact that they can pull that off is, to me, just a tremendous feat. So I think we owe them a lot for that, and I know the citizens appreciate it. So good work, the team.
No comment.
No comment.
No comment.
All right.
I have one question. Who is it that I need to talk to that can get someone to move the tree that fell on the house on Quilly Street? This has become a tourist attraction and probably an accident waiting to happen. My understanding is the gentleman who owned the house has got a settlement from the insurance company, but there is no movement. The house is falling deeper and deeper in this tree. The tree is falling deeper and deeper in this house. And I just want to know who it is. Is it you?
It's hard. I mean, if it's on private property...
it's really a private matter.
It has to be a tree.
No, it's just not a private matter. It's a neighborhood thing over there.
they could stay, they could,
It's a health hazard, it's dangerous.
we could look at it in terms of whether it's a nuisance.
Oh, it's a
And if
nuisance.
so, it could be
It's
cited.
all the above.
I mean, we decided it was
Do I
a
need to
nuisance,
take
but
a trip and go
that's gonna
view
take
this
months
Thursday
for it to go to court.
Yeah, because you know what, if you're going down the street and you happen to see it, it's like, my God.
I've got to go down there and see it.
It fell across the whole house, the house almost split in two.
And he got a settlement, what happened to him?
No, it does not meet code. It's not inhabitable.
So, I mean, doesn't it become our issue if...
It's a substandard house now.
I mean,
Yeah,
it
if
goes
it's-
to nuisance abatement, which goes through the court process, which will take a while.
Well, let's go ahead and get the court process started then.
Right, I mean, if
Or the
he
fire
got a settlement,
tree
he
board
should have to pay for it.
There is no tree board.
Substandard tree.
Right.
Do we know the address?
You guys money from the insurance company? What we were told last week, was that the waiting on the savings on the insurance. It's gonna be working for the end.
Yeah, he's gonna have to do away with it, but was my understanding that,
You told us last week you was waiting on the check.
We'll follow up. We'll follow
okay.
All right, I'll piggyback on Commissioner Marr's comments. That was a good presentation this morning. Nice, succinct, and easy to understand, and we appreciate all that hard work. If there's nothing else,
Make a motion to adjourn.
Yes.